And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.
Hey everyone, are you ready for Christ? You fired up for Jesus? Welcome back to another episode of Radical Christianity, the talk show that highlights God in action. I am Drew, your host, and it is awesome to have you here. Well, folks, you heard of raining cats and dogs, right? But what about bullets? That's right. Tennessee pastor Greg Locke's property was recently shot up with dozens of bullets, making his home a full-blown crime scene where police recovered 30 to 50 shell casings fired from an automatic weapon. Multiple bullets struck vehicles, the garage, and home of the controversial founder of Global Vision Bible Church. One bullet even fired through his daughter's headboard and into her pillow. Yikes. Talk about a close call. Thank God only one child was home at the time and in a safe area. But apparently the security camera footage shows that the rest of the family arrived just 1 minute after the gunman fled. Wow, is that divine timing or what? Hey, maybe the late night pit stop on the ride home wasn't just nature calling, but God. Sometimes those delays have a reason. Pastor Locke has given the credit to God, saying, "The only detail that matters is that Psalm 91 is true. God protected us in unimaginable and supernatural ways. Please play for the Locke family. We love you." Amen to that, right? Psalm 91 talks a lot about the divine protection in the form of angels. Who knows? Angels may have just dressed up as James Bond agents that night. Or maybe ninjas. What would an angel ninja wear anyway? A Bible belt, of course. It is Tennessee, right? In lighter news, do you remember that movie called The Forge that we covered a few weeks back? It's a feel-good story about a young man who experiences a transformation thanks to a mentor sent from God. Well, reports are in. And it opened the weekend in the top 5, edging out a much bigger budget secular film called The Crow, which cost 10 times as much to make and finished number 8. And The Forge scored an A+ rating on CinemaScore, which is a service that polls fans who have seen a movie on opening weekend. This gives the directors, the Kendrick brothers, a perfect score for all 4 of their films. What a win, right? But it's not about the numbers, as the brothers said. Did we obey what God told us to do? And did we leave it all on the field and give him a worthy offering? I think they did. Go see the movie, guys. It was really, really great. Okay, here's some jokes for your funny bone. What do you call a priest who becomes an attorney? A father-in-law. Why did the pastor become a baker? Because he loved angel food cake. What about the nun who became a farmer? Now she's known for having a holy cow. Ooh. All right, folks, that's enough for now. So tell me, you ready for Christ? You fired up for Jesus? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great interview for you coming up here from Cornerstone Church. Let's have a huge, warm welcome for Pastor Jim Franklin. Woo! How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you.
So, it's great to have you here. We had your son on here. That was a fun interview.
Well, then why would you want to have me if you've had him?
Well, he's the little you. You know what I mean?
And I'm going to quote you on that. Good. I'm glad he was here.
Yeah, it was good. So what we do here is a typical pattern of testimony to mission. So let's start us off with letting us know how you met Jesus.
So I was raised in the church. My dad was a deacon. My mama played the piano. My granddad led the choir. My grandmother taught a Sunday school class. I lived next door to the preacher, to the pastor. So this is basically all I've known, a small rural town in Oklahoma. And so I was raised in the church. Got to a point, though, that always wanted to be involved in radio. That was the career that I sought after, loved it as a kid. small town. We got an AM/FM combo that came in. And so I said, man, that's what I want to do. So I pursued that. As soon as I got my license where I could drive, I would go out and go to the radio station every morning when they'd sign on. Met the guy there that was the morning guy, and he let me come in, and I'd bring him a box of donuts every morning. And so that was the gateway to get him to open the door for me, because he liked to eat.
Yeah, bribery works.
And it'll open a lot of doors. Long story short, he trained me. I got my first job there. And, of course, when you get your first job at a station, or basically anything, you start on the weekends. So I started on the weekends. That took me out of church. And so suddenly my career took priority over my relationship with God. I did that throughout high school. And then into college. Was very successful in radio. I was a program director there at the station before I left, and then assistant manager at another station when I went to college. But again, it took me away from God. It wasn't until I got to that point that I realized this is not bringing me the fulfillment that I had before. Came back to God, and at that point received a call into the ministry, and rest is history.
Yeah. So what made you know that you wanted to be a pastor?
Well, I didn't. I didn't want to be a pastor, to be honest with you.
I can relate to that.
So I think too many times we define ministry by what we do, whereas ministry needs to be defined, first of all, by a calling into it. I use the word being drafted, but it may be much like that. It's like, no, this is what you're going to do. I'm calling you. Now, do you want to answer that call, or do you want to run from that call? You want to respond to the draft, or you want to run to Canada?
Right.
And then once you get in, and you say, all right, I'm called of God to be a part of the fivefold ministry. Then your giftings, your talents, your abilities, your training, that's where then the decision is made, not by us, but by higher up. All right, so this is what you're going to be in. You're going to be a pastor, you're going to be an evangelist, no, you're going to be a teacher, whatever the case may be. So it's more of a calling. I think we make a big mistake when we pursue it as an occupation. This is not an occupation. I can quit an occupation.
Right.
I can't quit what I do. And I think that's where, because if you look at it as an occupation, then you're going to be more tempted to quit it because you think you're in control of it. And I think that's where a lot of frustration comes in with people that are in the ministry. So it wasn't like, I want to be a pastor. No, I really didn't want to be a pastor because you have to deal with a lot of people. I would say ministry would be great if it wasn't for people. But when you, first of all, answer the call of God in your life, say, God, I realize your hand is upon me. I realize you're calling me to do something, and I'm going to answer that. Now, to do that is total submission to God, just like Jesus prayed in the garden, not my will, but thy will be done. There's a point. Okay, now I'm accepting this call. And I think when people make that, then suddenly they're not in control any longer. If you try to be in control of your ministry, then you're going to get your ministry. Right. I don't want my ministry. I want his ministry. I want to be a part of that. So it's surrendering to that call. And so when I did that, then, everything's on the table. Whatever he calls me to do, wherever he sends me or that, then he's going to send me where I'm going to be the most fulfilled. So now what I thought would not fulfill me, what I said, I don't want to do that. Now, for these last 31 years here in Fresno has been the most fulfilling part of my life.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the fulfillment is pretty much the reason why we all seek God. You know what I mean? Because we have that hole we're trying to fill, right? I mean, but I find that a lot of people, I don't know if it's hard for me to like assign like they didn't surrender all, and that's why they failed. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard for me to make those assumptions.
Well, I'll tell you why people fail, because they're people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really that simple. You're going to fail at everything that you do. Ministry, occupation, marriage. You're never going to be perfect at it, so thus you're going to have an element of failure. But failure is how we learn. Everything that I do well today, it started in failure. I have no problem eating today. I can do it real easy. I can get that food from that plate right into my mouth I don't even have to think about it. I can just do it naturally. When a child learns to eat, they get more food on them than they get in them. They start with failure.
I got you, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Right. Well, failure does lead to education. Right?
So if we stop at something because I'm failing at it, you're never going to accomplish anything. Because you're always going to fail at something.
Right.
Because failing is a part of the process to fulfillment.
So what do you think about, like, I always get disappointed when I see churches closing down. I see that a lot, or churches up for sale, you know what I mean? And then they get bought by a brewery or something, and they get converted into a brewery, And I see that more and more and more as time progresses. Especially, and that's in California, it seems like when their church comes available, and especially in this area, it's kind of getting bought by another church. But I see in the news, and especially like in the Midwest, a church will go up for sale, and a brewery will pick it up, or some skate shop will pick it up, and you know what I mean. And they do some kind of, without having to reconstruct the building, some kind of spin on that, and it's not serving God anymore. I don't know how to think about that, because that seems like a major loss for the kingdom.
Well, I'll mess you up here. You'll have my son back next time. I think some churches need to close.
Yeah.
I think some people have stepped out and said, I want to do this, and so I'm going to do it. And they got a few people to follow them for a while in that. Well-meaning, great people and all that. But it was something that was birthed more out of them than out of a call of God. Well, we want to win everybody to Jesus. Well, we can win people to Jesus. But the church, the establishment of a church is something that is a major call of God. Now, we need more churches, because it's not churches. We're all part of the same church, the universal church. But McDonald's is not going to put a McDonald's on one corner and walk across the street and put a McDonald's on the next corner.
No.
Because they're smart enough to understand, no, this McDonald's can serve. Corporate is going to decide where I'm going to put a McDonald's. You can't just go put a McDonald's in there. No, that's a franchise. And so you're going to follow what the franchise says, what corporate says, and that's then where you're going to put it, because we've already mapped out this is where we need it, and this is where we need it, and this is where we need it. We don't need 6 McDonald's on the same street. Then why do we do churches that way?
I don't know. It seems like almost like in every small town, you have especially in the Midwest. I used to tour on the roads, like on a lot of Midwest towns. They have like the courthouse, like on a town square, and then surrounding it, you have like a bunch of bars and churches.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. I think that we've oversaturated, and we've not brought the power to what corporate wants us to do. Talking about what God wants us to do. Now, I'm not saying there needs to be one church in the city and that, but your question of some churches closing down, maybe they didn't need to open up. So maybe that's the question we need to ask more than, well, why are they closing down? Well, why did they open up in the first place? Was it because somebody didn't get along with the pastor, so I'm going to start my own church?
Maybe.
And we're all smart enough to know that happens.
Right.
Well, that shouldn't happen. Or because I couldn't do anything else, I got aunts and uncles and cousins and everything, and we're all mad at this. So, or I get mad at this preacher, so you're mad at the preacher too. Hey, let's go form our own church. We got to be honest enough with ourselves to say there's some churches that start that should not start, because they're starting on the wrong reason.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I can see a lot of churches that have the wrong motivation.
So if we stop that from happening, and I'm not immature enough to think that we're going to stop that from happening, because that's human nature.
Right.
I just don't want to be a part of it. But if we could curtail some of that, instead of a group of people leaving a church saying we're mad at the pastor and we got 20 people that are, let's go out and we'll start our own thing. What if they reconcile to the pastor? What if maybe the pastor does need some correction in that, and by bringing it to his attention, maybe some correction could take place. And instead of a church being weakened, the church could be strengthened.
Yeah,
I'd a lot rather look to that aspect of it instead of the negative. Okay, well, this church closed down, this church closed down that way.
Yeah, human pride gets in the way a lot of things, I think. Yeah.
It's where it all started. I mean, it all started with pride when Lucifer thought, I can do this on my own. I can exalt my throne. I'm big enough to do this. And that is what we have been dealing with since that first day.
Right. Yeah. I can definitely see that. And I think that you are correct. Some churches definitely need to get shut down.
Would you like to know a list of those churches? Yeah,
Do you have a list?
Yeah, you don't want that.
You
list.
guys watching? No, I definitely agree with you, and I would be able to make my own list, but that's just to me, making a list like that is, for someone like me, it seems like it's the wrong place to even put my thought process.
I'm going to leave that up to corporate.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to leave that up to corporate, but I'm smart enough to know that, there's probably some that need to.
Yeah.
Because they started wrongly.
I think there should be some kind of national church fund that, when a church is going under, somebody just picks up the building.
Well, there is. I'm a part of an organization, Church Boom, which we have Church Rescue.
Okay.
So what we do is that we look for those churches that, especially after what we've come through with COVID, that was a huge blow on churches. And it weakened a lot of them. A lot of people weren't coming. Obviously, church closed down some, and people didn't come back. And so it really put a lot of churches, sadly, in a real bind, leadership-wise, financially, in that. So what Church Boom does is we come alongside those and try to rescue. We'll help financially. We'll help with leadership training. We'll help to share resources so that those churches that really should be there, they're in a weakened state. They've gone through a struggle, and so we want to help rescue them. So yes, there's a movement that does that. I'm a part of it.
Oh, that's good. That's actually great. Yeah. Do you have any success stories that you want to share from that?
Well, we've seen churches just as we described. I do coaching calls with churches, with pastors from across the nation. A church again that was dying because of what had happened with COVID and that. A new pastor had come in. The old pastor left, and so a new one came in. We were able to give him some structure, how to build a team, and to breathe life into that, to where now the church, where it was 20, 30 people, had dwindled down to that, is now running well over 200, 250 people on a regular basis, and is growing. There's life back into it. Because many times to rescue a church, it's not something spectacular that they need. They just need to start functioning as a church. When our body gets sick or whatever, something is attacking it. And so what a doctor wants to do is just, let's get your vital signs back up. Let's get your heart rate right. Let's get your blood pressure right. Let's get your temperature right. If we can get those things, then the body can start naturally beginning to strengthen itself. And its weakness, not necessarily just sickness. Sickness, you need to deal with the sickness. So you got problems in the church. Okay, we got to deal with those problems. Most of what we're seeing is just churches get so weak that they just need help in bringing their strength back up. So that's where we offer coaching and able to help pastors to be able to do that.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. I did not know that there were programs like that.
And most every denomination now is doing that. We do this cross-denominationally, but most great denominations, and I think that's one of the beauties of being a part of a denomination or a church. People are like, I don't want this denominational stuff. Well, they just don't understand. When you say denomination, you're just, you're just talking about a group of churches that have something basic in common, usually their theology, and they can strengthen one another and help one another,
right?
Because they understand each other on a basis. So again, I don't have anything negative against denominations or being a part of that or being non-denominational, but I'd a lot rather run with the pack than run by myself.
Yeah, I don't really consider myself non-denominational. I'm just kind of like a denominational blend. I'm kind of Baptist-costal.
Well, you know, people nowadays are not as defined, just as you said, as we were in days gone by, because we've become more pure. We're more metropolitan is a term I use, probably not the best term to use, but we have a better understanding of the world that is around us. Where when I was a kid, we were a lot more isolated because we didn't have the connectivity that we have today. We didn't have what we're doing here today.
Right.
Back then. We had, 3 major news outlets and a newspaper and radio. That was it. So nothing like what we have the connectivity today. No ability to connect with ministries across the nation or around the world like we can today on the internet. I can sit and watch church in Philadelphia. I can watch it in New York. I can watch it in L.A. I can watch it, in South America live. Mm-hmm. Well, I can pick and I've got all that. Obviously, when I was growing up, we didn't have any of that technology.
Right. Yeah, I also grew up without that technology, so I understand that. My father was Southern Baptist. My mother's parents were Assembly of God, and so I spent most of my life in those two.
So those are the worlds that you would have lived in,
exactly,
because you didn't have opportunity or exposure to others. Those days are gone. I can watch any flavor I want to on my phone.
Right, and I didn't even know that there was like flavors until I got much older. Yeah. The beauty of the internet is that you can tune into a lot of different things out there. The sad side is that
you can tune into a lot of different things that are out there.
Yeah, exactly, and there's not, for some reason, and it is repairing. And I'm sure you're aware of like the content that the Christian body as a whole puts out. I mean, we are getting some better content. We were actually getting some decent movies. For a change, which is, and I mean, I have to say The Forge is the first time that I've seen one that came out that was straight gospel, like straight gospel message, but an excellent movie. It's the first time I've seen that. I've seen a lot of ones that are like the gospel sprinkled in,
Well, the creative mind, there's all different types of ways to do it. I thought Forge was an excellent movie, without a doubt. Had a pure, simplistic presentation, unadulterated of the gospel. I like that. I'm a preacher. Obviously, I like that.
Right. Heavy on discipleship, yeah.
I've seen a lot of those movies, though, that, again, maybe not be just blatant in your face, but opened up people's minds to start asking the right questions. And I think that's where many times we have to, because you mentioned you were raised two backgrounds, church and everything. We live in a world now where, sadly, here in the United States, there are so many who have no concept of the gospel.
Right.
They really have no concept of it. I have people that walk into our services every Sunday who will tell me as adults, this is the first time I've ever been in a church. Now, that's hard for me to fathom because that's not my experience. Like I say, I was raised in the church.
Right.
But for somebody to walk into a church service, a worship experience, for the very first time with no concept of really what this is other than what they have seen portrayed on television or heard somebody tell them, but never to have experienced it for themselves. That's the world more now that we're living in. We're really living in the book of Acts more culturally than at any other time.
I can definitely see that. Let me ask you a question then, kind of on that note. So like if you were to, I'm sure you're aware of how some people who are, I try not to say this which offends anybody, so if you're offended, I'm sorry, let me apologize in advance, are a little bit overbearing with their faith and what seems unauthentic and maybe even cringy, you know what I mean, when they are like the kind of person that will force you to hold their hand when they pray, and you know what I mean. That and there's examples I could go on and that I know, but I have seen people like that make it really hard to reach the people in their lives. Like they, you know what I mean? They have a good intention, you know, deep down, you know, obviously maybe their human pride or their human error or their whatever, you know, hypocrisy or is messing with it. But, you know, they're making it harder for other people to communicate Jesus to the people that experience it first through them.
I think the key is authenticity. That's what the world is looking for. That's what people, they want something that's real. They've experienced so many things that are not real. Promises that were never kept. Man, you do this and you're going to be happy. Do this and you'll be fulfilled. Do this and you'll be successful in yourself. And they found out that didn't work. They're disillusioned by the world. They want something that's real. So I think it's authenticity. They can see that. They'll even put up with you grabbing their hand and holding their hand and pray when they know you're authentic. When they know you're real. Man, this guy really feels this stuff. The power of a testimony is greater than the power of theology.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, even though the message is super strong, most people don't really experience Jesus except through other believers.
So if you look at the Apostle Paul and you read his writings, New Testament, you'll find in his travels that when he encountered people he had not encountered before, and obviously he talked to the church different because they understood some things. But every encounter he had with someone outside of that world, what was the first thing he would do, or that he would always do? He would share his story. He would tell who he was. He would tell of an encounter that he had with Christ on a Damascus road and what Christ did for him and how that changed his world. He shared his testimony because people can argue your theology. They can, I don't believe the Bible says that, I don't believe this, I don't believe this doctrine or that. They cannot argue your testimony. And
right.
you can't tell me that didn't happen to me. You weren't there. I was there. This is me. This happened to me. Now, you don't have to believe it. You can do that.
Right.
But you can't argue it. You can't tell me it didn't happen because you weren't there. I was. I'm the witness of it. I testify of it. And just like in a court of law, when we bring someone to testify, it is that testimony that will determine life or death for the person on trial. I mean, you did it, he was there, I saw him do it, he's probably going to get convicted if there was an eyewitness that testifies. Or nope, he wasn't there, he was with me, well, then he's probably going to get off for that.
And authenticity matters in that as well.
That's the key, is authenticity. So I'm not going to fault somebody because of their excitement and their enthusiasm and their zeal, that they're going to jump up on a table and say, you guys all need Jesus. Because if they tell me their story of, you need Jesus because I know how much I needed Jesus, and what God did for me, he can do for you. That's what people are looking for today. Now, in their zeal, that's where we come around, our brothers and our sisters say, yeah, let me show you a better way to do it. Let me help you in your fishing techniques. We're all going to still be fishing, but let me help you in that. Here's maybe a better way. And that's just where maturity comes along. But the world will never reject authenticity.
They may try to retort it, but
they may not agree with it. They may not like it.
Right.
But they can't argue it.
Right. Yeah. So let me ask you this: as a pastor of a very diverse church, which is I'm always impressed by how you have an extremely diverse people in your church, and usually churches tend to have a handful or a certain demographic that they kind of feed, and then they might have a sprinkling of. No, you have just a slather of all kinds of different demographics, and I'm really impressed by that.
Our church, and I think any church, let me say, should pretty well mirror the demographics of the city that they're in. So if the city is predominantly Anglo, then it's probably going to be a predominantly Anglo, but it should pretty well match what are those demographics of the city, and thankfully we've seen that.
Yeah. I'm impressed. You guys. I'm always hearing about great things that your church is doing, and my pastor speaks very highly of you. So,
Well, I'll tell him I'll take him to lunch or something.
Yeah, he probably owes you lunch or something. I don't know. I know you guys are good friends though, so it's cool. So, as the pastor of one of the larger churches in town, what would you say is the most challenging thing you deal with on a regular?
People. Just the heartaches of people, the problems that people face. I think that's one of the greatest things. I'm not smart enough to figure the other stuff out. There's pastors in this town that are a lot smarter than I am. They a lot more gifted than I am in their communication skills and abilities and everything. They're not as good looking as I am, but they can't have everything. But I think when it really comes down at the end of the day, it's dealing with people. And I mean that in the heartaches that they go through. Because you can't fix that. You have to sit with them through it. And that's difficult. I just on the phone with a family that's facing a situation. I don't have an answer for it. It's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And I wish I could just make it better. But I can't. I can't walk away from it because I'm called to it. And because of that, there's a love and a compassion for those individuals. And so bearing the heartache of people is probably one of the toughest things. One of the greatest things is being able to share hope to those people and see them then come through that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have experienced a little of, watching God work through me. I obviously am not a pastor of a church, and most of the people that I reach through this, I don't hear from or see, But there have been people like that I interact with in real life that I get to watch how God is using me to help them stay on track. You can say it's about the best I can do, while God and Jesus really works on them and does great things in their life. Like there's a girl that's in my growth group, my small group. She, came to church, just kind of by happenstance. God definitely put like a group of us together on purpose. It was real clear. And then she ended up, obviously reinforcing her faith. And then she influenced her husband to start coming to church. And then he reinforced his faith. And she influenced her son and his wife to come to church, and her grandchildren. And now it's like, there's like there's like 5 of them, and they're pretty much all been saved, and there's like 5 of them that have been baptized. And I mean, it's just like her family is just all coming to Jesus because she said yes to Jesus. And I mean, I take no credit for that. It's just like if there's a question, I try to do my best to answer it. That's and I just follow up every once in a while.
Well, if we would learn to stay connected with people, helping one another, that's really where fulfillment of ministry comes from. It's just like you're saying, seeing that in the lives of those that are around us. Sadly, so many people do not engage with the people that are around them, and so they never experience what you just talked about. Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where I refuse to even take any credit at all. All the credit I get is just saying yes to Jesus. That's the maximum credit I get. What is going on with Cornerstone? What's coming up?
So we've got our annual conference that is just right around the corner. As a matter of fact, it's on the 18th.
Okay.
And so we do that annually. It's called Outpouring. And we've got a great lineup this year of special speakers. Marcos Witt will be with us on Wednesday night, the 18th. Now, he's one of the leading Spanish pastors, worship leaders internationally. He was Joel Osteen at Lakewood in Houston, Spanish pastor for several years. Okay. He travels South America, Central America. packing out auditoriums. And so he'll be with us on that Wednesday night. It'll be all in Spanish. We have a Spanish congregation also at Cornerstone Espanol. And then Thursday night, Ron Carpenter will be coming over and being a part of it. Friday night, I'll be speaking. Saturday, we've got a men's breakfast that'll take place. Our men's pastor, Pastor Rudy Reyna, will be speaking there. Micah Berteau out of Modesto will be with us. He also pastors a great church in Dallas. And so he'll be with us on Saturday night. My wife and Nate, my son, will be speaking on Sunday morning in the 9 and 11. And then we got a great night of worship with Stephen and Lori from the Living Room Experience that travels with worship. And that's going to be a great time on that Sunday night. So we've got a full outpouring experience to take place. Encourage everybody to come. No registration. It's all free.
Is there a theme for the conference?
Well, we refer to it as outpouring. He said, in the last day, I will pour out my spirit. A lot of people right now, with all that's happening in the world, are so focused on the negative, the reality. In the last days, there's going to be war and rumor of war and famine and pestilence. And that's true, and it's happening. We see it all around us. So you can choose to focus on that. I'm not ignoring it. It's happening. Jesus is coming back very soon. It could be at any moment. We see that. But that's not going to be my focus. I want to focus on the other part of the promise that in the last day I will pour out my spirit upon your sons and your daughters. Because that's what we're going to need to bring about the real transformation in this last day. And so that's what we've decided to focus on. We refer to it as outpouring, not just so that it's, outpouring rain that takes place. We're not just wanting to, play in the rain. We in this valley understand the importance of water. I went through a drought a few years ago, and a lot of land that was very productive suddenly is now just dry, dead. And so we knew the importance of water. Any farmer knows I've got to have water. The seed's good. It's the incorruptible seed of God's word. It'll never return void. We found seed that was buried in the pyramids that we plant, water, and it comes to life. Seed's good. The ground's good. I believe we've got good ground here. And they're talking about people. Mm-hmm. But what activates the seed is the water. The move of God's Spirit is what activates. You can put a seed in dry ground and nothing will happen. You add water to that, and the potential of that seed comes alive. We believe that there is going to be an outpouring of God's Spirit, God's presence. That's what we desire more than anything, that then activates the seed of God's Word that is in us, that helps us move to that next level of the potential that God has for us. So this isn't about an experience for those nights of outpouring. It is really about an activation that we believe God is going to start in the lives of people. When that rain comes, it activates those plants, that seed, so those plants begin to grow, not just so that we can activate the seed, but we know that there's going to be a great harvest that's going to come out of that will produce more seeds. So that's what outpouring and the theme is all about.
Okay, that's great. So basically, it's trying to get everybody to experience the Spirit.
Exactly.
Right. Excellent. What else is going on? I know you guys have those movie nights.
So the last Sunday night of every month, we turn the Wilson Theater, which is the oldest existing performing arts theater in the Valley, built in 1926. It was built as a vaudeville theater, so we do a lot of performing arts stuff there. But in the mid-30s, Fox Motion Pictures purchased it and turned it into a first-run motion picture theater. So there was the Warner Brothers had the Warner's Theater at one end of the block, and Fox had the Wilson Theater at the other end of the block. Okay. Competitors. So what we've done is on the last Sunday night of the month, we bring the big screen down, we convert it back into a theater, concessions and everything, and we offer great faith-based films free of charge for people to come and enjoy it. And the numbers are growing, and people are really enjoying that. Getting out of the heat during this summer, and then something to do. And we like to do it that way, because it's got a great message with the films, but people can have a good time with their family, and it doesn't cost them anything. They're able to experience that together. And I know people say, well, I can watch movies at home on TV. And you can, and Everybody's got all their sight and sound and experience.
Well, a lot of people are looking for a reason to get out of the house.
And there's something that happens when you watch a movie with 1,000 of your closest friends. I mean, there really is an experience in that. Going to the theater, it's an image on a screen. It's like you're watching an image on a screen, but it's different because you're experiencing it with community.
Right.
And watching a film at Cornerstone, our people love to get rowdy, and it is a party. So I encourage people to come down, and that's open to everybody. We want to offer that as a service to the community because there are not too many churches that have a theater as their venue. So we want to give that back.
So do you get a lot of the downtown crowd? Because I know there are a lot more people living downtown now than when you opened your church.
When we came, there wasn't anything down here, in all honesty. We're getting a lot more folks from the neighborhood that are coming in. So it's a very diverse crowd from all the way up. People drive in from, far away that come in on Sundays. And then those who live right next door, and sadly those who sleep on the street around the corner. Yeah,
the homeless problem is getting really, like, I've never seen it this bad in my entire life. And I feel like that's like a symptom of a much bigger problem, and I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that people have turned their backs on their brother more often than not these days.
Well, I put homelessness in basically three categories. That there are those that do not want to be on the street. Something's happened in their life.
Right.
An economic problem, a health problem, a situation, circumstance. They lost their job and now they can't afford the rent, and now they're living in their car, jumping from a hotel. They don't want to be out there. These are the people that if you give them any way out, any help, they'll take advantage of it because they don't want to be there. They don't want their kids to be there. They're looking for work. They're trying to do something in that. You have that group of people, and sadly, there's a lot of those that are out there. But there's all types of programs and everything to be able to help them, and that's where the church needs to really step up. The second group are those that are out there because they are, I'll use the word bound, they have made some wrong choices, drug addiction, or there's some mental situations in their life that maybe drugs have led to.
Right.
That they I'm not saying they choose to be out there, but they're bound up to something that keeps them out there. We need to help those people. I think there needs to be stronger laws that will help us to take people off the street that mentally are not capable of understanding who they are. And you see that, I see that as we walk, that as you see that person walking down, they're not in their right mind. You can tell that immediately. If we saw a child that had been abandoned, we would step in and take that child to a place where they could be cared for. Why can we not get to the point that we will do that to an adult who has the mind of a child that because of drugs, alcohol, or whatever the reason may be?
I don't know why we don't do that now as much. I do know that we used to do that as a society.
Right.
And then obviously the end result wasn't always great because sanatoriums were where they'd be ending up at, and some of those were from sanitarium to sanitarium, good and bad, in different degrees in between.
Well, I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
There needed to be reform. You're right. Some things weren't right then, but we've come a long way. And I think we need to get back to that point that if I wanted to put my money anywhere, as far as tax money, that's where I want to put it. I want to put it to help those individuals. You and I see them every day walking the streets around here. These poor individuals, you know, they don't know where they're. So you got that category. So those who don't want to be on the street, we need to help them, and they'll take help. Those who don't know they're on the street, we need to figure out a way that we can say, no, we're going to help you. You don't even know you need help, but we're going to help you, get you in the right mind, at least get you in a place where you can be properly fed and cared, and you're not living in the stench of homelessness. But then, sadly, there is a group of people that want to be out there.
Yeah.
Now, that's where my patience runs a little thin. I've got a group of people that say, no, I don't want to live by the dictates of a society. I want to sleep where I want to sleep. I want to go where I want to go. I want to do what I want to do, and I'm going to appeal to either the charity of individuals to make it, or I'm going to do it through illegal means to be able to make it. But I want to do that out there. Well, my Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. If you're able to, you should. And so those individuals, I don't have the patience for. And I'm not ready to empower them to continue that type of lifestyle. If that's what they choose, all right. But you can't cripple society by that, nor can you appeal to the compassion of individuals to say, oh, feel sorry for me. There are professionals that do that. We have that documented time and time again. They're out there, raising money for my kid's funeral. I got cancer. I'm a veteran and whatever. And so I don't want to empower that.
Yeah, I was shocked when I learned.
And let me say about that, because I said that, I don't want anybody to think that even if you're a veteran and you're in that situation, then no, I don't have the compassion for you. Mm-hmm. If you're a veteran that is suffering and you're in the other two categories, I'm probably going to put you to the front of the line because of the service that you've rendered to this country.
Yeah, I don't think anybody misunderstood your intention there. I was disappointed when I learned that there are organized groups that put people with signs out on the street now.
It's a business. They've learned how to appeal to the... I have very little patience for that because I think that's preying upon the good intentions of people.
The amount of money they pull in a day is insane. I mean, I have literally seen, like, in a course of a day, because I was actually working at a place where I could see the people coming off the freeway and the person standing there. And that person would be going and pulling something from a window on an average of 5 minutes, or every 10 minutes there'd be something there would be pulling. And it's like, if you did the math, even if they were all $1 bills, that person's leaving with over $100 that day.
Oh, they're making a lot more than minimum wage doing that. So why wouldn't you do that? Say, I want to live out here.
Right.
And but it opens the door to victimization. It opens the door to all types of things. So that's the homeless problem. If I was focusing on, that's what we've got to shut the door on. We've got to open doors in the other two areas.
I agree with that. In fact, I would love to off camera and more on one-on-one time. I'd love to talk about a vision God sent me about a huge thing that I don't think I'm supposed to do, but I have definitely communicated it to a lot of people. So Cornerstone is in downtown Fresno on Fulton Boulevard near.
Is it Fulton and Stanislaus, cross streets?
Fulton and Stanislaus. Okay. And that's a pretty convenient location because it's the theater that is. And now, if you guys have not been to that theater, it is absolutely beautiful inside.
We are blessed. We are blessed.
How much restoration did you have to do when you picked it up?
Quite a bit. It had again, it's the longest continually operating theater, but it was in much disrepair. The roof was leaking. It needed a lot of work. But where we were located at Divisadero on Fresno, we're by Community Hospital. And when I first came, and within about 2 years' time, we outgrew that facility, multiple services. And a lot of people said, you need to move north. Now, again, this is 28 years ago, and there really wasn't anything north, if you're familiar here with Fresno, Knees, and that area. People said that's the way the city's growing, and they were right. And we see that by the number of churches that are up there that have come since then. But I'm from Oklahoma, and I just saying we use a lot back there. Dance with the one who brung you. So what God was doing through us was reaching downtown and inner city. So I'm not going to abandon that. And so God opened the door for us to purchase the Wilson Theater as the first building that we purchased. And then now to about 2 blocks of campus there downtown.
Yeah, you have a lot going on down there. We had the opportunity to go and interview the House of Hope, and then they run that coffee shop that's
Lighthouse. Right.
Okay. Right. I keep saying House of Hope because that's what the sign in front of the house says. Right. Yeah, but the Lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Right. Now that coffee shop is a super huge blessing for them. And, the way they kind of phrased it, it was like a hassle until, they stepped in. And it's like, I'm like, can you enlighten on
So,
your end of that story?
I've been involved in coffee shops for a long time. Used to own a chain of coffee shops. So when we opened the Wilson, we said, hey, we need a coffee shop here on the corner. This is before coffee shops were.
Right.
Now everybody's got a coffee shop, but we started saying, no, we got it. We're here on the business. It'd be a great way to attract people in. But I know what it takes to run a coffee shop in that. Vicki Luna and her vision there of Lighthouse, just remarkable. And she was looking for enterprises for them to get involved in. In other words, to give occupational training to the ladies who were going through that. And so I just asked her, I said, hey, how would you like to take over the coffee shop? And then we'll give you the building, the use of it and everything. And then all your revenue that comes in from that can go to help support the program. And then it'll also be a way to help bring training to the ladies that are in the program that would like to work there. And it's just been a great matchup. So they've been a blessing to us because, A, I don't have to manage a coffee shop. It provides a great service to our congregation. They're open when we're there, but it provides a great service to the community. And that coffee shop is growing. It's some of the best coffee in town. And all the other amenities that are there, it's full all the time. And it's helping to support them financially and helping to be a blessing to those ladies. So no, it's been a win-win for both of us.
Yeah, it's a huge blessing for them. When we went and interviewed with them, there was a lady who got her training there, and then just came back from a job interview and got the job at Starbucks. I was all like, we're witnessing God at work right here.
That's what we wanted to see come from that. There needs to be more partnerships like that.
Yeah, there definitely does. There should be quite a few more. What do you think is the thing that stops churches from partnering more like that?
Well, I think it's the amount of trust that has to be there. There has to be trust. I'll go back to Lighthouse. Vicki Luna has been a part of our church from the beginning. Now, Lighthouse is a completely separate organization. They're their own nonprofit. There's no financial connection other than we support them that way. But so they're completely separate in that. But I think people don't engage in that because the trust factor is not there. And if I get them too close to me, are they going to get this? Or are they going to get that? Are they going to take from me? And I'm not. As long as we're close-fisted about everything that we've got, we're never going to have it open enough to receive something. We receive far more by partnering with ministries than we have by saying, no, we're going to be by ourselves. We're not building our kingdom. We're advancing the kingdom.
Yeah. So what do you think about... so we have a couple minutes left here of the interview. We do a media ministry here. As far as I know, it's kind of the first of its kind, and it has been a very difficult road to explain to people what a media ministry is. So
what is it?
Okay, a media ministry is, our mission is obviously to empower creatives to use their talents for the glory of God. It is a mission of discipleship and a mission of trying to put more content out there on the internet, on television, etc., for people to try to find ways to connect to Jesus. I mean, that's basically what it is. When we established this, I was trying to find a model to base on, and I could not. You know what I mean? And
so you're a trailblazer.
Jesus is. I'm just trying to be obedient, and it's hard. I'm sure you're aware how hard obedience can be sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like one of those things. So. What do you think about trailblazing ministries like this?
Well, this is the new frontier. As we said earlier, when I grew up, the only things we had access to media-wise was 3 major channels and a newspaper and radio stations, and those were very limited. Whereas now there is so much opportunity via the screen that's in your hand. Why would we not go into that world and evangelize it? Why would we not make this type of content accessible. And now not just where I have to catch it live or I can't see it. The beauty of this is I can watch it whenever I want to watch it and share it with anybody I want to share it with. So there's just so much more opportunities, but it's got to have content. You got to have the message before the technology is really going to work.
Right.
The world's using the technology. Why shouldn't we? And it's going to take individuals that understand that to make that happen.
Yeah, opportunity is what I have seen has been the biggest challenge, and that's one of the things that we're trying to, to provide is opportunity, which is, you can't force opportunity. You know what I mean? You have to wait until God presents it, and then just pray about it and like, okay, this is from God. All right, we just act. But anyway. Thank you so much for coming today.
No, thank you.
I am really grateful that I had a chance to meet you, and we haven't had a whole lot of time of one-on-one. I hope that in the future we get more opportunity to get to know each other better. I think that you're a really great person, and you're doing great things for the community, doing wonderful things for the kingdom. You know what I mean? I'm not giving you any credit for that one. Just so you know, that's Jesus working through you,
Amen.
And I can totally see it.
Amen.
You've raised a great son.
I'm blessed.
He is pretty funny.
Yeah, but looks aren't everything.
I didn't say he was funny looking. No, anyway.
No,
so
he has been a great blessing there to the church and what he brings, and a whole new perspective, a new breath of fresh air, and he's a great son and a great partner in ministry.
Yeah. I love to see what you guys are doing. I'm obviously gonna keep watching, and it warms my heart to see a situation that like yours, where it seems like it would be an overwhelming challenge, but you just let God do it, and you just try to steer the best you can.
People ask me, how did Cornerstone get to where it's at and build and diversity and all that? How'd you do that? And I tell them real quick, I said, I didn't do it, but if you figure out how we did it, don't tell me, because if I knew how we did this, I'd mess it up. So we're just going to leave that to the Lord.
That's great. So we have a saying on this show, and that is, you're definitely rad for Christ. You're definitely fired up for Jesus, and we love to see that. God bless you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Radical Christianity. It means so much to me and to our team that you've decided to join us today. I think this episode was filled with a lot of really good information and some impactful things. I would love to take a moment to reach out to that person right now who's feeling that tug on their heart, that familiar tug that Jesus does when God and Jesus is trying to reach you. The Spirit's trying to reach you. And I think that it is important that you acknowledge that tug you feel, that thing you feel in your heart is the Spirit. It is trying to reach you, trying to pull you home. And it's let's just say, not now, maybe, those are no's. All right? When you're saying not right now, that's saying no, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So if it's something that you are considering and you're thinking about, don't be afraid. It's a decision between you and the Creator. It is not my choice for you to make your choice. I just want to encourage you. If you're feeling that tug, I don't know anybody who's ever regretted having a relationship with Jesus Christ. And if you are ready to do that, if you're feeling, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot, then all you have to do is just talk to Jesus. Just tell him, say, hey, Jesus, I need you. Please come into my life. Help me fix the things in my life that are not what you need them to be. Turn me into the person that you have designed me to be. I don't want to do my way anymore. I want to do your way. Not my will, your will. What I've been doing isn't working, and I need you to step in and fix it. I mean, obviously that was very wordy. You don't have to say that exact thing that I said, but just talk to him. speak from your heart, and you will find that you will appreciate having Jesus lead your life. And if you did some kind of prayer like that or talk to Jesus while watching this show or because of this show or a rerun of this show, I would really appreciate it if you'd let us know. And all you got to do is go to our website, radforchrist.com. That's RAD, 4, Christ.com. And it's a form there called Got Saved. You fill out that form, I'll be able to send you a Bible and a little thank you note and a little gift to let you know that we're happy that you have joined the family of God. Also on the website, if you have a question about this show or guests or something coming up or from the Bible or math homework, whatever it is, we will try and help you find that answer. And if you have a prayer request, we also have a form for that. So if you have something that is in need in your life and you would like us to pray for that need, please let us know what it is so that we can pray for you. Because, we are here to serve. And this is the most important part of all. And that's Jesus Christ loves you. And so do I. Thank you for joining Radical Christianity. We will see you next week.
And I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.